I'm a death hag. What exactly is a death hag? Stick around and find out as I interview death hag genius and FindTheDeath.com founder Scott Michaels. It all starts right now. FindTheDeath.com is an addicting website founded by Scott Michaels. It's filled with your favorite celebrities from the past, and one click gets you information on the last hours of your favorite celebrity's life. The website has been hailed by the likes of Indianapolis Star, Kansas City Star, Chicago Sun-Times, Long Island Press, Washington Post, News of the World, CNN, and the Los Angeles Times calls the site deliciously sorted. And in reference to founder Scott Michaels, quote, he knows where the bodies are buried. Scott runs his own tour service in Los Angeles called Dearly Departed Tours, and has a segment on Lisa Gibbons' Hollywood Confidential radio show. He's been featured on E! Television. The interview starts now. How did Find the Death come about?
I started Find the Death back in about 98. I was living in England. I should preface that. I used to work in LA before I moved to England as a tour guide. And I took people to sort of the darker side of Hollywood, those sorts of locations. So when I moved to England, because of my visa status, I was forbidden to leave for about 2 years. And during that time, Princess Diana was killed in Paris. And I wasn't able to get to Paris. It was only an hour away, but I couldn't get there. So as soon as I got my visa, I went to Paris, took the photographs of the tunnel where she was killed, and I decided to put them online because it's sort of what I was doing in LA, taking people to where these certain events happen. And I thought, well, I'll give this a shot. And the internet was fairly new at that point. And I just started putting together stories of people that died in London because I was right there. And it took off. It just became a much bigger thing.
Right.
And I'm pretty happy with the way it's turned out.
Yeah, it's awesome site. Kind of explain like death hags, because I try to explain people that I'm a death hag, and they don't really get it. I guess the thing is, some people get it and some people don't.
Well, the term death hag puts people off because most people don't know that it's actually a tongue-in-cheek term. It's not something that, you're not talking about a real hag. You're talking about somebody that's sort of interested in something. I mean, there have been fame hags, and there have been people that are just sort of, Klingons, people that are interested in these sorts of things. Now, I consider death hag the kind of a person who sort of thumbs to the ends of biographies as soon as you open them, instead of going to the front of it, finding out how they died first. People that are sort of more the macabre kind of interest, people that will travel a few blocks out of the way to see where a murder happened, or things like that. Just people that have I think, healthy interest in death, people that aren't freaked out by it and don't mind pursuing it a little bit.
Right. I'll wear my shirt sometimes, and people, they get off on asking me, about rotten.com and all that, and I'm not into that.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's plenty of just really, really gross things on the internet, most definitely. But yeah, when it comes to some famous, I don't know, maybe, I don't know why that legitimizes it, but yeah, that's interesting to me. But just seeing some old, somebody got hit by a train or, a severed head or something like that, no, not really interested. But, attach a celebrity name to it, yeah, I'm interested.
Talk about, you have a DVD coming out on Helter Skelter.
Mm-hmm. It's called The 6 Degrees of Helter Skelter. It's sort of the first time the story of the Manson murders has been told geographically. Everything has been more or less focused on Manson and his followers and how they got to do what they did, how he got them to do what they did. And our documentary focuses more on where these things happened and where the victims lived, where they went about their normal everyday lives, where the murderers lived, and it's just sort of a different take on things. There's a lot left in Los Angeles from 40 years ago, surprisingly so, because the city famously just throws out its history, but there's nuggets here and there. You can still find where J.C. Brings old salon used to be, which I find really interesting. I passed it 1,000 times when I realized what it was. Well, that just puts an interesting spin on that particular street, and I think it's an important story in Los Angeles, and it continues to fascinate people. It's 40 years now, and we're still talking about it.
What's your favorite story that you've done on Find the Death?
Well, plain old heart attack in bed. But I was able to track down the original newspaper article that stated, had a coroner, an overzealous coroner, state before the autopsy was done. He said, I think after the autopsy was performed, you will find that she will have choked on a ham sandwich. That's where that whole rumor began. And I find that interesting. And it's sad because Mama Cancer has become a punchline to a joke. It's just like Karen Carpenter. It's sort of a, it just these things have become a joke. Jane Mansfield was not decapitated. I find that interesting. All my life I've been told her head was ripped off of her body, and that's just not true. So I'm proud of the fact that I was able to dispel these sort of rumors. I think a lot of them started by Kenneth Anger, who wrote those two fabulous works of fiction, Hollywood Babylon 1 and 2. He just made up some horrific stories about people that weren't around to defend themselves, and I've spent most of my career learning the truth about these things and trying to share it with people. So those are my favorites. I think the ones that the ones that we thought we knew everything about, and actually we know anything about.
Right. Now I know a few of the people that watch my videos. They live in Los Angeles. Kind of explain your tour and what goes on during your tour, in case they might want to go see your tour.
Right. Well, the standard Dearly Departed tour is a little over 3 hours, and we take you to over 100 locations where famous things happen, be them murders, suicides, scandals. Hugh Grant, George Michael. In fact, the restroom break on the tour is the very restroom where George Michael was arrested. And while people are exiting my bus to the park where he was arrested, they get provided a complimentary copy of George Michael's arrest report. So that's one of the sites, and it's a Hugh Grant's location, but also the Menendez murders. We touch on the Manson murders on the regular tour, and Rebecca Schaeffer, the Black Dahlia, but also you'll see this movie locations from Grease and Sunset Boulevard and Halloween, and I call the original Dearly Departed tour a lighthearted look at the dark side of Hollywood. The other tour that I offer is the Helter Skelter tour, but based solely on the Manson murders. It's like I put blinders on, and we're driving down the Sunset Strip, and I don't talk about the Viper Room where River Phoenix died, but that's on the regular tour. But we talk about back in 1969, the Whiskey A Go-Go and the Doors and the whole Manson thing. The Helter Skelter tour, I think, is pretty good. I'm proud of that as well. It covers about 30 miles, and you see where Jay's old salon was, both the murder locations, although that one of them has been destroyed since 1993. We still cover the places, and I try to tell the story of the Manson murders as completely as I can, and I'm pretty proud of that tour. And the new tour I'm starting in a few weeks is called the Hollywood Movie Locations Tour. I've recently acquired a public performance license to show films on my bus, and as I show people on my original tour, movie locations where Pretty Woman or things like that were shot, I'll actually be showing film clips on my bus as we're pulling up to these locations. So it's a really good moment when you can see a film that you've seen 1,000 times and look out your window, and there it is. There's the site where it was shot. I think that's a great correlation. I think it's history.
You've mentioned on your website a few times David Spade, who I hate. I detest him.
Yeah. A little wiener.
Yeah. You said he's thrown rocks before at your tour?
Yeah, he throws rocks, golf balls. He's just basically an annoying individual. I just feel like I know somebody he made a point about it one time. There was in the tabloids that he was doing this, and he said somebody tried to kill him once in his house, and he has a problem with tour buses going by, showing 30 people a day where he lives. And if you read that story a little bit, you'll find that a few years ago he was being chased around his home with a taser by a gentleman who was trying to kill him. Now, what he chose to leave out of that story was that it was his personal assistant that was trying to kill him. It wasn't some stranger. So even the people that know him and involved with him can't stand him.
Before you mentioned it on your website, I guess I never saw the movie Freaks, and I didn't know who, was it Slitsy?
Slitsy, sure, yeah.
I didn't know who he was, and when you dig into further details about him, he was kind of, I don't know, it just seemed like he was kind of a Hollywood loner. Can you talk about him a little bit?
Yeah, Slitsy was actually born, there is a technical term for it which escapes me right now, but had the, mentality of a 5-year-old boy, and Slitsy, severely retarded, was exhibited, basically sold and exhibited in sideshows. They shaved Slitsy's head and put a little, like a crown on the top of hair with a ribbon in it, and because his head was misshapen, they called him a pinhead, and became very famous in the sideshow circuit, one of the most famous sideshow freaks, featured in the movie Freaks, and lived to a nice ripe age of about 80, I think. But long forgotten, and it's funny because a lot of people made their careers on Slitsy, made a lot of money on Slitsy, and Slitsy just never made anything, and was happy as a clam, actually loved the attention, etc., but just never had financial gains, probably didn't need it, and Slitsy actually died and was buried in an unmarked grave out near Whittier, and through some legwork for some fans of my website, they were actually located Slitsy's grave and raised the money and bought a tombstone for Slitsy. And on the 20th of February, we're actually having a proper memorial service for Slitsy, which is going to be kind of a big deal. Like it's giving first recognition that really didn't get towards the end of his life. Not that I think that he was complaining that much. He was like, I don't want to describe it, I don't want to be insulting either, but he was sort of like a puppy, just a really happy individual and really enjoyed the attention, and now is getting the attention that he deserves in death.
Right. Just one last question about the, now your site also has a page called I guess the fun page, or just random stuff, and I find that page kind of interesting. Talk about what's on that page. I know a lot of people, would just be interested with that in general, because it's got.
Well, the fun stuff is just silly things. I take pictures all the time of things that I visit that don't really fit into the death genre, I guess. And it's escaping me actually what's on it right now. But just sort of different things around LA or around the world that I've seen that don't really fall into the category of death. And just sort of, some of them are movie locations, some of them are celebrities that I've met over the years. Just silly things, I guess, and things that I find funny. And it's funny how other people find them funny too, and they become bigger things.
Right.
There was a picture that I took in there. A good friend of mine passed away about 5 years ago, and there was somebody that we used to see a lot at this restaurant, and one friend I put the picture of this person up on the website, and I as a tribute to my friend, basically, and I wrote something like, there are only 3 people in the world that know who this person is, and one of them is dead, and that was all I put, and I'd say a large portion of my email, those people wanted you to know who this is, and it's no one. It's absolutely no one. It's just something that I used to share with my friend who passed away. But it's just, when I guess it gives me little, they want to know all about it. They want to know the whole story. So it's funny how that attracts people. The fun stuff. It's just whimsical things. It's nothing really having to do with death at all.
Right. Well, I appreciate it, Scott.
Oh, I do too. Thanks.